what we have next is the post-prandial panel of the program, which is all about the messaging opportunity, how to grow the USA business messaging market. Featuring Aragon from Mavenir, Marcelo Frizzo from Infobip, Chris Wright from Syniverse, and this side. The stage is yours.
Thank you again. So, Carlos, Marcelo, Chris, I'm not going to sit down because I'm afraid that people will think that I know you too well. Marcelo, the other two. I've been in so many panels. It's starting to think that there's an act. No, I'm going to try new questions, new tricks, to make sure that we get all the insight out. And let's see if you can surprise us with some of the things that are happening, because the messaging opportunity was growing until recently. We managed to see fantastic numbers in the industry. Can the USA get more great growth than that? We at the end of the toothpaste. Is there more to squeeze, or is it now? So in order to do that, Carlos, Marcelo, and Chris, a few questions for you. We'll be very brief. Let's see if we can hit the mark. Starting with that question, first of all, is what's happening right now? You know, what's happening with SMS and MMS? What are you seeing? Is it growth coming? Who would like to talk about? Yeah.
Kick it off. I think they are seeing quite a bit of growth when it comes to SMS and MMS. As we know, 10DLC is rolling out in the US, it already has. And we are seeing a tremendous amount of growth in activation of those new services. Some of the stuff we're doing now is we're seeing a little issues on the process on how to activate the numbers. I think what we need to do is work on the streamlining process of that to help expedite that so it's easier for them to, and consistency across all the operators. Once we have that, I think you're going to see even a larger increase in the overall volume of traffic coming from NDLC.
Well, I think if you were in the sessions in the morning, there's clearly an appetite for messaging. We had a Toledo lady talking about capacity, throughput, and all that. MMS is very much a US phenomenon. Outside of the US, people don't even know what MMS is because of WhatsApp penetration. And I think that lies the opportunity and the challenge as well. We can all sit down and complain about WhatsApp eating everybody's lunch, or we can do something about it. And I think you might have a thing or two to say, Carlos.
Well, I can speak for hours, but we only have 30 minutes. So, no, I was going to say, going back to SMS and MMS, Mavenir has been through the different kind of consolidations and acquisitions of commerce throughout everything. We're still the leader in terms of providing technology to carriers to enable SMS, and during the pandemic we've seen massive growth of the traffic that they've been running there. Even if the P2P traffic has gone down over the years, and A2P and business messaging has gone up. But the thing is, what we're also seeing with the carriers right now is that a lot of them are too focused on protecting that SMS revenue, what we heard this morning in the other sessions. And they need to start thinking about what's next. And I guess the RCS deployment, yes, I understand that this is the US, iPhone has a lot of penetration in here. But even if they have a 50% penetration in a country of hundreds of millions of people, 50% of 300 million is still 150 million we can reach with RCS, and the brands are going to be willing to do that. So figuring out what's going to be next and focusing on the use cases that SMS cannot allow today because of the limitation of the 160 characters and what you can do with it. And finding those other sources of revenue, those other new use cases is going to be key for them on the way forward.
Fantastic. You know, a few things. I'll go back to one, just because I like to create a bit about it as well. So 10DLC, you spoke about 10DLC, faster introduction. What's your views on 10DLC? Let's fill the links. President, fantastic. You can talk about it. Tell us more. Start with Chris. What can be effective in the market right now to improve?
I think the biggest thing is consistency. You need to figure out what the consistency is for the review of the policies that each operator has, so that it is consistent. So it's easier for an enterprise to actually go through and activate the service, regardless of which operator is going through, the consistency, I think that's going to help drive new volumes.
Well, I kind of say the same, but using a different word, I guess. Removing the fragmentation, making it simple, making it quick and easy. You look at the short code industry that we have now, taking several weeks to launch a short code. The 10 DLC in some ways, fixes a lot of that, but it doesn't, address everything. It creates some other problems. I was just chatting with, in terms of the complexities for charging, billing, etc. I think bringing simplicity will help all of us, will help the carriers, will help the brands, will help the community of aggregators, CPaaS players, everybody will benefit from that.
Yeah, it's been a little bit time to hold with these guys, and we have a great one, but we're going to say, which is not the case. But they both have a point. I mean, when it comes to providing your goods and services to the market, it's already too complex to figure out how to engage your consumers. If then you're trying to do messaging, you find all of these barriers, all that friction, it only makes it more complicated and you start looking at other channels, because other channels like Google advertising, for example, Facebook advertising, are making it more simple for a company or an SME even to go in there. So anything we can do to simplify, harmonize, provide a single front that kind of doesn't change carrier by carrier, and that allows an SME to go fast in the market and basically just go maybe to a website and just put their information there and start being able to send messages, is something that can help drive that market forward.
Fantastic, and we're taking notes, and all of this will be shared with the TC Aragon. So there is positive growth, there is momentum, there is a tool to clean up it. So it looks almost like there is maturity, and there is maturity, there's serenity. Oops! Should we get worried about the OTTs of this world? So mention WhatsApp. Is your leadless market? Does it make any dent?
I'm going to take this one. Because I've been finding the OTTs not finding, there is like a co-petition there. We work with them for some things, but there is other areas where we've been finding them. The first one was with the P2P, when RCS was in diapers at the very beginning. And these guys came in because for the consumer it was not only cheaper, but it was simpler. And you no longer have to worry about how many messages you send on a conversation with your girlfriend. Let's just say you just interacted and it was using your data plan. It was very simple, predictable. It's going to happen with A2P. Here in the US, the carriers were either smart enough or lucky enough to bundle SMS into their monthly fees, so that they didn't have to worry about people, worrying about spending money in messages. So WhatsApp didn't penetrate here, but a few weeks ago, and probably the number has already grown, I read somewhere that WhatsApp had reached 70 million users in the US already. Okay, these guys are advertising in the Super Bowl. These guys have the marketing money to convince customers to download the app, which is normally the barrier of entry for a lot of these people. So they're knocking at our doors right now. I would be very concerned that these guys are not just going to settle for the new rich business messaging, but are going to try and focus to drive messaging in any form. And that's going to end up eroding the SMS market too.
And I want to throw in a kind of a Voltaire, message of don't answer the perfect is the enemy of the good. And there's CPaaS players out there. I represent one of them. There's others in the industry. There's a lot of sophistication that can enable a multitude of use cases. We know the simple ones, where people are going to continue to use perhaps SMS, given its ubiquity for delivery of the messages, even with the known challenges. But not doing anything is opening up the doors to somebody that owns an entire ecosystem. And like it or not, it's happening. And if you go on a CPaaS type of approach where you have a multitude of channels, let the end user judge where he or she wants to receive the message. And if the use case suits itself for more sophistication, then you choose WhatsApp. If RCS is not fully developed or deployed, I just think, once again, going back to the word fragmentation. If we continue to feel victims of a market where Apple has a higher penetration, we already know what Apple is going to do, and more importantly, what Apple is not going to do. So I just think being victim or feeling victim of that is not a good option.
And the other thing is too, we have full coverage of all the devices in North America for SMS, MMS. We're going to get roughly 40%, maybe 50% eventually of RCS. Use the SMS and MMS to augment where you have the holes. So we do have a consistent offering that we offer. We just have to be selective on how we do it. Once again, look at the users to determine how you want to use the services.
Actually, I propose we stop using the terminology RCS and just call it rich messaging. The sophistication to do these things of the falling back, starting with one channel, going to the next, MMS is pretty decent in the US and widely accepted. If you're able to embed an image, animated GIF in some cases, quick video, audio is maybe less used for ATP, but it's still a better user experience. If all you're sending is an OTP, SMS will do it. And there's one other thing that I guess even, I'm a big proponent of drinking your own champagne, the carriers and the brands can use that to promote kind of the Trojan horse. Start sending messages to RCS, and if they get delivered, you kind of know who has an Android. If they don't get delivered, call back to the next best channel. It could be MMS. It could be eventually SMS.
So if I have to summarize a bit, so you say this is great, it's a growing market. There are some challenges, you're looking into that. And the future is probably about pushing what you have, maybe with the little flavor of RCS. What's your
unique approach with a hybrid market? Use RCS where we can. We augment it with the other services that we have, the SMS, MMS. As Marcelo was saying, we have a robust MMS infrastructure today. We could hit everybody in North America with that infrastructure. Let's leverage that to help augment what we're missing with the RCS coverage.
Yeah, and on the CPaaS component, this only channel capability that exists. You can't quite initiate a conversation with Apple Business Messaging the same way that you would do with RCS, but there are ways to work around that and kind of prompt the user to start that and make a P2A and establish a section, and brands will value that. I think brands speak APIs, right? If the channel behind that is MMS, and they have a good return on their click-to ratio, click-to-open, on the amount of interactions, they will eventually fall in place, and you make the commercials easy for that, they will come for it.
And the most important point is in an API-driven world, it no longer means that you have to, as a carrier, deploy your own equipment in the network and everything. Google have made our RCS easier right now. Maybe at some point it looked like they were going to take it over, and that may eventually happen if the carriers would really move. But the reality today is that most of the vendors or platforms to allow that are providing software as a service solutions, so that you don't even have to risk. You can just start with something now while you figure out what you're going to do in the future. So the main statement I can do, and I'm going to stand for this one, because an image is worth 1,000 words and more. I'm not going to be chicken nails in here, but the message I have for the carriers here, it's very simple. Just do it. It's not, we can help you. These guys here, Mavenir, there's many others, Loco, we can help you figure it out, but the longer you wait, the more risk there is that the WhatsApps of the world are going to figure out how to get to those customers, and they're going to eat your lunch like they did with P2P, and I wish I'm wrong about this thing, but time is running out.
Well, no. We want to see you doing it.
You know what I see?
Do it.
It's interesting, we didn't even need it, but today we had twice we heard that as well, or in different words from client. You just say, what are they doing in silence now? From and then we heard it from Lauren as well. So, well, let's just do it. And as you can see, cameras will be available for proposals. We take everything.
Yeah, I'm put on sale for the next 2 weeks, and then the prices go up.
Exactly. But I like to see that your other half doesn't seem to be particularly interested. Still looking at the phone. But no bookings right now, but just questions if you have questions for these fantastic trio. Yeah, we have one of those.
Hi, my name's Joe Jason. I'm with a VC firm called DNA Partners. Been in the mobile industry a while. My question specifically is there a blind spot here? Because SMSCs and MMSCs are old protocols from the paging industry. rich communication systems and Google messaging platform are TCP/IP. So aren't we just going to do it with TCP/IP? Why are we even talking about SMSC and MMSC?
Why are we talking about SMSC?
Why?
Well, I think there's a couple of layers there as you start peeling things off. SMSC and MMSC are out there. They perform a function very well. We heard this morning concerns with potential throughput, capacity, etc. I think that's in certain times of the year, certain days of the year where traffic spikes up. Cyber Monday, Black Friday coming up are legit concerns. But they also have limitations on the use case. On the, how rich of an experience your user will have. Are they good enough? Like I said, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I think they're good. They work well. They are reliable. You send a message, you expect to be delivered. The rich messaging component of that, there's certain things of like app fatigue. How many apps on your phone, regardless of being an Android or iPhone, you actually use from the ones you have downloaded? I can count a handful of mine. And I think there's certain use cases of rich message, like boarding pass for an airplane, etc., that you're probably going to have issues doing that over SMS.
You're just protecting the old like a guard. I mean, we're talking about collaboration suite communications here is going to eat the lunch of SMS and MMS.
I agree with you.
So, if you want to just isolate WhatsApp in this discussion, it's not even fair to the whole discussion at all, because collaboration suite communications are going to eat the lunch of messaging.
Like I said, I don't care what channel the user selects. If he or she wants to receive on WhatsApp, we should work with that as well. I think that's required where a CPaaS player enables this layer of communications. It could even be voice. Certain use cases, I think the gentleman this morning with his workflow type of solution, sometimes they need to place voice calls just to get into a shift. There's nothing sexy about it.
5G, voice over IP.
Exactly.
There's one thing I would like to add in there, because you mentioned we're singling out WhatsApp, and one of the things that we all agree on, in fact we do have an EMEA Connects omni-channel event happening in November, we did one last year, is the fact that users as a whole, they tend to be gregarious. They go where their friends and their family are. So just targeting one channel, as you said, WhatsApp, or maybe the collaboration or communications applications there is not good enough. I mean, you as a brand, you have to figure out ways that you can simplify how you can find those consumers in the channel that they are too. But the thing is, and that's why we're still talking about SMS and MMS, is first people find change. That's why we're still dealing with SMS and MMS, because the average consumer understands how SMS works. With all its limitations, they kind of trust SMS still. But also the fact that today, if you want to reach everybody, you know that everybody is going to be able to receive an SMS. Whereas, for example, even with WhatsApp, well, in Europe it's a different thing. In Spain, you can reach 95% of people with SMS. Even my grandmother, with WhatsApp, even my grandmother has WhatsApp in her phone. And she can barely dial, but she will be able to answer. But here in the US, it's not that case. The omni-channel approach is very important, because Apple Business Messaging is the only way you're going to be able to provide that rich messaging experience on an iPhone device, if you want to be able to native messaging client within the device. The reason why we're talking about WhatsApp is because when you talk about those unified communication applications or other applications, you first have to convince the customer to deploy and install another app on their device. And there is app fatigue. People are not installing new apps on their device. They have Facebook, they have Instagram. It takes a massive marketing effort to get a customer to download a new app on their phone. Unless you have something super sexy, super fun like TikTok, where for whatever reason it gets viral, but for every application that goes viral, there's a million ones that failed. So,
You do the mobile operators with RCS. I mean, that covers that. That is embedded.
Well, the issue is all devices don't support it. I think that's the
iOS can do this in the developing countries. I'm having fun in this conversation.
yeah.
Well, talking about time experience, I know there was another question there. Oh, my app is loaded. Okay, fine, we can finish at 7 o'clock.
we will catch up. But one question, for Brian, was there? Behave and be fast, everybody. Yes.
Michael.
It's not working yet. Oh, you go first.
No, Brian on two.
On two. Okay. It's not on. Turn it on. It's not on. Oh, now it is. Okay.
Hello. So I just want to add to that conversation, and I will ask a question this time, but I don't know if we're going to be able to answer it together. But I think one of the differences as a carrier between OTT, and I won't single out WhatsApp, is telecommunications and business is definitely collaboration. So what is the collaborative solution to WhatsApp and a carrier sharing the value in that ecosystem? And whether or not SMS is old, it does have shared value that we can grow from. And also, it allows us to maintain the longevity of the number, which I talked about in my spot. Oh, WhatsApp doesn't do that. You can do email, you can probably do Twitter. I don't know what you can do on WhatsApp to be able to do identity. But I think we have to, I'm willing to support, as a carrier, an omni-channel strategy. But we need to come to the table, the OTT provider need to come to the table with those solutions to be able to share the value and to maintain the value of the number for me.
Actually, WhatsApp is much more insidious. WhatsApp is using your number as the identity of the subscriber. So that number you're trying to preserve, they're using it, and they're figuring out many other ways to do it. But I agree with you, we have to figure out a way we can still provide value to SMS, because there is value in SMS still, but drive the people to do other ways to collaborate. And there's different aspects in there. In Mavenir, we've kind of divided different kind of solutions for whether you're trying to do business collaboration, more B2B, between businesses, and that's for more unified communications and those type of tools, and some of the CPaaS integration into business processes first. And then the business to consumer collaboration, where you pair a couple of things, the omni-channel platforms or messaging as a platform channels, together with contact center solutions and some specific applications to be able to democratize into the SMB space, because they are normally not sophisticated enough to run any contact center. But being able to offer that collaboration, and that's, for example, something that Apple forces when you use Apple Messages for Business, that you have to provide a way that you can talk to a person, not to an automation. So all of those kind of tools, they are available today. It's just that as an ecosystem, we have a saying in Spain that says, I'm going to try to translate it into English, but basically said, they killed it individually, and then she died on her own. It's basically like, we're all trying to do something, but nobody's actually doing it. And that's something that we need to figure out right now. Is in the US, there was actually a very kind of a brave initiative a few years ago. We're actually involved, we're that old, to be involved in that thing, where the carriers tried to figure out a way to bring RCS together, and then we don't know exactly why it didn't consolidate, but that effort didn't go forward. But most of those carriers had enough kind of elements in their network to be able to do this. So it's a matter of them kind of figuring out what's the commercial model, which in the rest of the countries, for example in Europe, they've come to terms with certain session-based models where they're trying to, at least, of course they cannot agree on the pricing itself, but they can agree on the model. So kind of defining what a session is, how many messages, how many minutes, and then a transactional model where you charge per message. That's the first step. Then at least make sure that you have a map and you have a way to provide those APIs to the aggregators, to the brands, or to the companies that are going to be the next layer of value on top, and be able to kind of continue to be the channel of trust for your consumers. You can do it with RCS, and if you figure out the omni-channel structure, still as a carrier, you can provide values to tier 2, tier 3 aggregators who don't have the power to build those things on their own, and are looking for somebody to give them a tool as a service where they can run campaigns, where they can integrate omni-channel. There is opportunity out there. If you guys follow Mobile Square, which is kind of like our reference analyst in MEF, these guys have huge numbers about what the potential is there, not just for customer engagement, but for migration of mobile advertising from the web and from the cookie-less world into messaging. So the opportunities are there. We just have to just do it.
Here we go. So as you can see, MEF is pretty neutral, but it's just you don't want to talk about RCS. I tried to stop these 15 minutes, but we still have questions, and we could have more questions for that, but I think we'll have to move on. But could you please join me and say a big thank you to Carlos Aragon.